In the early days of World War II, the Soviet Union found itself staring down the barrel of a merciless enemy. With the German invasion launched on June 22, 1941, known as Operation Barbarossa, the nation was thrust into an existential struggle for survival. The rapid and brutal assault forced the USSR to mobilize every available resource, and the desperate need for manpower led to a groundbreaking decision: to enlist women in roles once deemed unthinkable. The war had already exacted a heavy toll on the Soviet populace. Cities were razed, families torn apart, and the specter of defeat loomed large. In this context, the inclusion of women in the armed forces was not just a matter of equality, it was a strategic necessity. Women answered the call, stepping into roles as snipers, pilots, medics, and infantry soldiers, proving that valor and resilience are not confined by gender. Their involvement marked a turning point, where the dire circumstances of war redefined societal norms and forged an enduring legacy of bravery. As the war intensified, women found themselves assigned to a variety of critical positions that showcased their adaptability and strength. One of the most celebrated roles was that of the sniper. Amid the rubble and ruin of urban warfare, these sharpshooters turned the tide of countless skirmishes with precision and nerve. Among them, Lyudmila Pavlichenko emerged as a living legend, a sniper with over 300 confirmed kills who became a symbol of defiance against oppression. Simultaneously, the skies became another frontier of valor. The famed Night Witches, an all-female aviation regiment, carried out daring bombing missions under the cover of darkness. Their rickety biplanes and ingenious tactics struck terror into the hearts of enemy forces, proving that aerial warfare was not the exclusive domain of men. These pilots, often young and resolute, faced not only the perils of anti-aircraft fire and enemy fighters, but also the relentless skepticism of a society unaccustomed to female aviators. On the ground, women served as medics, providing life-saving care amidst the carnage of battle. Their tireless work in makeshift field hospitals, often under fire and with minimal supplies, was critical in stabilizing the wounded. Other women donned the uniforms of infantry units, learning to march, shoot, and fight shoulder to shoulder with their male counterparts. The training was grueling, and the conditions were harsh, yet these women persisted, driven by a deep commitment to their country and a belief in a just cause. Among the many heroines of the Soviet Red Army, several names shone with exceptional brilliance. Yevdokia Zavali, for instance, became a symbol of relentless courage on the battlefield. Known for her steely resolve and tactical acumen, Zavali led her unit through some of the most dangerous engagements, often placing herself in the line of fire to inspire her comrades. Lyudmila Pavlichenko's story, however, remains one of the most riveting chapters in the annals of wartime heroism. Lyudmila Pavlichenko's story, however, remains one of the most riveting chapters in the annals of wartime heroism. Born into a modest family, Pavlichenko's extraordinary marksmanship and composure under pressure earned her the nickname Lady Death. In the face of overwhelming odds, she maintained a stoic determination that resonated deeply with both soldiers and civilians. Her exploits were widely publicized, and she became an ambassador of Soviet valor, traveling to foreign lands to share her experiences and galvanize support for the war effort. Other lesser-known figures, whose names might not echo as loudly through history, also played indispensable roles. Their personal accounts, filled with moments of quiet courage, profound sacrifice, and unyielding determination, collectively illustrate that the fight for freedom was not waged by a single individual, but by an entire army of resilient souls. These women, each with their own story of loss, triumph, and survival, were united by an unbreakable bond of patriotism and the shared burden of a brutal war. The battlefield was unforgiving, and the challenges faced by these women were as relentless as the enemy they fought. The sheer brutality of combat was evident in every skirmish, where death lurked behind every corner, and the cost of survival was measured in blood and sacrifice. For many, the horrors of war were compounded by the societal prejudices that sought to undermine their contributions. They encountered skepticism, disparaging remarks, and even outright hostility from those who could not reconcile the image of a woman with that of a warrior. Yet within this crucible of violence, the spirit of these women burned brighter than ever. Training sessions were grueling, with each day demanding an unyielding mix of physical endurance and mental fortitude. In the trenches, amidst the deafening roar of artillery and the stench of decay, the women of the Red Army found strength in unity. Their camaraderie and shared experiences fostered a sense of belonging and mutual reliance that transcended traditional gender roles. They were not merely soldiers, they were mothers, daughters, sisters, and friends whose lives were intertwined by the common goal of defending their homeland. The brutality of war was not limited to the battlefield. Behind the lines, the constant threat of espionage, the devastation of entire communities, and the emotional toll of loss and grief added layers of hardship to an already insurmountable challenge. Despite this, the women pressed on, their hearts steeled by an unwavering resolve to see their nation emerge victorious from the crucible of conflict. The impact of these women on the course of World War II and on subsequent generations cannot be overstated. Their contributions, once met with skepticism, gradually earned recognition both in the annals of military history and in the hearts of the people. Statues, memorials, and numerous scholarly works now commemorate the sacrifices and achievements of these fearless warriors. Their legacy paved the way for future generations of female soldiers around the world. The notion that courage is not a byproduct of physical strength alone, but rather a quality of the human spirit, was forever enshrined in the stories of the Soviet Red Army. As more and more nations recognized the invaluable contributions of women in military service, the rigid gender boundaries of the past began to erode. Today, female soldiers stand shoulder to shoulder with their male counterparts in armed forces around the globe, a living testament to the pioneering spirit of those who once fought in the snow and blood of a shattered homeland. Interwoven with the grand narrative of war are the personal stories of those who lived it. In a moment of rare respite during a lull in the fighting, a young medic recounted her memories of a particularly harrowing day. "I remember the deafening silence that followed the explosion, a silence so profound it echoed the pain of every lost life. Yet, even as I worked to save a comrade's life, I felt an unyielding fire inside me. It was the knowledge that our sacrifice, our suffering, would not be in vain." Such recollections bring a human face to the impersonal statistics of wartime casualties, reminding us that every bullet fired and every life lost carried with it an immeasurable cost. Another poignant account comes from a sniper who, after a long day on the front, confided, "In the cold darkness, as I aimed at the enemy, I felt the weight of every woman who had ever doubted my place in this war. With every pull of the trigger, I silenced not only an adversary, but also the echoes of prejudice that haunted me. I fought not just for victory, but for the right to exist as a warrior, a defender of my people." These intimate glimpses into the inner lives of these women remind us that behind the uniforms and medals were individuals with dreams, fears, and the unyielding desire to make a difference. As the war raged on, letters and diaries became vital lifelines. In one such letter penned by a young pilot of the Night Witches, she wrote, "Every night, as I soared through the ink-black skies, I carried with me the hope of a free homeland and the memory of those who believed in our cause. The stars above were our silent witnesses, and every mission was a prayer for peace." These words, fragile yet defiant, encapsulate the duality of war, the sorrow of loss intertwined with the resilience of hope. The saga of the fierce women of the Soviet Red Army is not merely a chapter in history. It is an enduring lesson in courage, determination, and the transformative power of unity in the face of overwhelming adversity. Their sacrifices remind us that true strength is born of conviction, and that the fight for justice transcends the boundaries of gender and time. Today, as we reflect on the extraordinary legacy of these heroines, we are invited to consider the broader implications of their contributions. What does it mean to be a warrior? How can we, in our own lives, draw inspiration from their unwavering resolve? The story of these women is a powerful call to action, a reminder that every voice, regardless of gender, can shape the course of history. We encourage you, the reader, to share your thoughts and insights on the role of women in the military. How do you perceive the legacy of these remarkable figures, and what lessons can we draw from their stories in our contemporary world? In discussing these questions, we honor the memory of those who fought not only with weapons in hand, but with hearts ablaze with hope, forever redefining what it means to be truly courageous. In the echoes of battle and the silence of remembrance, the legacy of the Soviet Red Army's women continues to inspire. Their stories, etched in the annals of history, remind us that even in the darkest hours, the human spirit can shine with an unquenchable light. Feel free to reflect on this narrative, share your thoughts, and continue the conversation on how the indomitable spirit of these remarkable women can guide us in today's world. We have now reached the end of the video. I hope you liked it. I have used artificial intelligence to create the images. Some images might be inaccurate. However, the purpose of the video is to increase awareness and genuine understanding, not to showcase the capabilities of artificial intelligence. I wish you continued health and wellness.